Great. Well, welcome everybody who's listening in tonight. We have a relatively short agenda, but each of them is fairly long as well. The first item is reviewing the 2020-2021 priorities. I think that there are some of these that are kind of ongoing. Some of these we've been talking about for years, and some of them hopefully we'll be able to actually wrap up this year. Some of them, like begin planning for an expanded firehouse facility, is something we've talked about probably since I have memory of living in Irvington. And we finally started to address it by, buying a piece of property and things like that. So, I think I don't necessarily know if we need to go into details on all these, Larry.
Well, I can call. No, I don't. I think you're right, but let me call it up on the screen here, and then
Sure.
We can, if there's anything that piques your interest in terms of addressing
Things we want to get rid of or want that we don't have, I think are probably the issues for tonight.
Yeah. So obviously the first item on the list, which is the newest of items, is the review of police department policies, and that goes along with the executive order from the governor.
Yeah.
Interestingly on that, I one of the things that we as the managers have noted is that the executive order, if you read it carefully, says that the Division of Budget and the Division of Criminal Justice Services will promulgate guidance as to how to complete the review. The executive order then goes into some fairly detailed outline of how it should be done, but the guidance has yet to be issued. We checked with NICOM and they're awaiting it as well. So it's a little, that doesn't, not to say that there's nothing you can do, but the actual formal guidance isn't out. So
right.
It's,
and I think, as we all know, we wanted to do this before we had the executive order telling us to do it. I think what's been, probably smart on our part is, we've kind of, not that we've been slow burning this, but we've been kind of talking about the best way to go about this with the most participation, and have kind of the most comprehensive review. And I think now we've talked about it briefly. I've talked about it with some of the board members. Now that we're into August, I think it's a good time to identify members for the committee. We've had, Larry, an uptick in people and residents that have wanted to participate. Some of the board members have kind of come up with some ideas for potential, experts in the area to help facilitate some of the discussions. So I think, and I think we're starting to outline an actual kind of plan of attack on how to go about this. And to me, I think the public really appreciated the opportunity to speak candidly and openly with Tarrytown in their review. So I almost envision a kind of pre-review kickoff night, maybe at our first work session in September, where, it'd be kind of an open forum. We'd be there, the police would be there, the police leadership anyway. And, we kind of have an open dialogue with residents about, issues and concerns and that type of thing. And I think that'll set a tone for our, kind of formal review. And I think it might also bring some people out that want to be involved in that review to add to the list that we already have. So, then we can start meeting, second half of September and, kind of meet regularly then, probably twice a month, something like that until, kind of near the end of the year. Then hopefully we'll have, solid recommendations. And then hopefully we'll have some guidance from the governor and what they want to see in the format. And, I think we'll be on schedule then to have it in by, I believe it's the end of April. Is that when it's due?
Yeah, April 1st it might be, but yeah.
Yeah. So April.
Sometime in April, yeah.
So, and I think what we've also started is our internal Labor Council has also started a review of the, important sections of our police policy. So we'll have kind of, by the time we meet in September, we anticipate having, kind of broad brush strokes of items that are, blatantly missing or shouldn't be in there. We don't expect really to find those, but if there are, then, that's something we can start to address right away. So, I feel like, although it feels like we haven't done too much, we do have, kind of the early parts of a plan and a plan of attack on this. So, and as well as people, coming and raising their hand and saying, I'd like to serve on that committee. So I think we actually are gaining momentum as we kind of, start August here.
So Brian, I have a question. Is there a developing list of people? I'm not sure I have actually seen that, of people who are interested.
No, we haven't shared it yet, because I'd say like every 3 days we get one more person says I'd be interested in sharing. I just been sending it to Larry and said, at some point we'll just say, hey, these are who are on the list. If anybody from the board has anybody they'd like to reach out to or nominate or want me to reach out to, we can do that as well.
In other words, are they sending just to you?
Correct.
Oh, I see. Okay. So
I had sent an email, probably 6 weeks ago that just said, if anybody's interested, let me know. We got 1 or 2 back then, and then we've probably gotten, I don't know, about another 4 or 5, Larry, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So there might be 7 or 8 people that have said I'd like to serve on that committee. And anybody basically who wants to serve on that committee is welcome to. So we're and
I can circulate that around to the board and prompt you to add any names you want to put in there for consideration.
Yeah, and I know Janice has some ideas on some people from Pace Law School, but if other people have either experts or different people that you like, residents obviously, but even if they're non-residents, your old college roommate that is now an expert in the subject matter or whatever, feel free to either tell me that they're interested, or I'd be happy to reach out and see if they are interested.
Okay. Any other comments? About the primary focus areas?
Yeah, I had a couple. So
yeah.
These are very quick. Number 8, support sustainable initiatives. There are none listed right now. I thought we could probably put the climate smart certification process as under that.
Sure.
So it's just not. So there's something concrete.
Yep.
Number 10, are we back to bargaining already?
Yes. I didn't put it on there just because I felt like it. Yes, no, we are. The current PBA contract runs through the end of fiscal 21, so May 31st of 21. So
why do we put this here as a specific action? We know it has to be dealt with, but for the most part, it's being dealt with Labor Council, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was on there for this past several years. Well, probably more than that. Past several years with both unions in terms of wrapping those up. So if it's up for discussion, if it's not an area of primary focus, or you think it's just ministerial and you don't want to highlight it, that's up to you.
I mean, it's hard to know what's going to come out of the review of policies and procedures, but it's also kind of, I don't know how that would directly impact, bargaining and negotiations or what. It's so.
I think it could.
Huh?
I think it could.
It could, but it's out in left field as to what kind of ball it is right now.
Right.
I don't know if that's an extended baseball metaphor, but basically the idea is that we don't know what to call it right now, so it's hard to know how it's going to fall.
Right.
Well, I don't see any problem in leaving it in. It's been there for a few years, and it's obviously something important. I get your point, Mark, but
okay, I'm not going to. This is not Iwo Jima or something. I'm not going to die over the point. I was just.
Oh, I know.
Was just interested about how this never seems to die.
Yeah, well.
You think?
You collective bargaining. It never dies.
Exactly. So then the other one I had was, in the past we talked about this, but number 9, continue a system of performance review for all department heads to encourage active two-way feedback. The other thing that we've talked about in the past is, and it may not be this item and I forget where it is, but we need to start getting some sustainability training in terms of work process, materials handling, all sorts of things. Especially for the DPW crew, I think, going forward. And there's such a change in technologies available. So I'm not sure where else it could be useful. You know, there's obviously things are being done in the building department to make things more environmentally sound in terms of paperwork. But anyways, at the past, I thought we had talked about trying to ensure that if not the superintendent or whatever, the top manager of the department, then at least some senior people were getting informed on context around them.
Okay, I'll come up with some language.
Yeah, that might even be under 8 somewhere too. I'm not sure where it would.
Well, I'll look at it. Yeah, let me just.
Too.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I understand what you're getting at. So I can try to work something in. I have to read through all the other ones, make sure that's not touched on already, but it may not be. Okay. Anything else?
Well, on page 2, I had 3 short ones. Some of them meta comment. Number 2, continue efforts such as Slow Down Irvington and Walk Safe Irvington. Right now, those efforts really are in stasis. Nothing's really happening. So
right.
I would say resuscitate, reinvigorate.
Well, look, I didn't change the language on this mainly because we fully expect, to be at full complement, full capabilities, and be able to put that traffic officer back on the road. I think I've briefed the board on the status of that, in the past, with the one officer that's on staff that's not able to do that function for health reasons. So by the end of this calendar year, I would expect that that will change, and we'll be able to have the full staff to be able to do that, because the board fully committed to having a traffic officer dedicated, and that was working very well. But there's a cost to not using the current person who's incapable of doing it and dedicating yet another person to do the traffic function, and it's just was a very large cost. And so we're gonna wait this out until the end of this year, and we'll get right on moving again.
So we're basically looking at the ongoing initiatives right now, that section?
Yes.
10?
Yes. Yeah, it started back up here.
Okay. Yep. So is there something, just remind me about the town hall clock tower restoration?
Yeah, I mean, that's here in number 3. That project is currently under design. We know that the clock tower needs restoration. We can all see it with our own eyes. And if you're up close, it's even worse. And so the design is moving along, and we're trying to come up with a way of attacking this in as cost-effective a way as possible. So that it's probably scaffolding up around the clock tower for 9 months to a year. So I mean, it's going to be one of those types of projects again.
Is it in the capital budget somewhere? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then we'll
Yes.
do that.
Definitely. Yeah.
The
Yeah, you approved the design money last year, and the construction is in there for this year.
okay. So there are just 2 extra words in number 5. Continue and expand efforts.
Oh yeah. I see that. I'll fix that. Okay, thank you.
I thought number 8 had effectively already been done.
It got accelerated, but it's not done. So I left it in there.
That has to do with the online applications and all that's part of that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
but that process can still continue to be strengthened and streamlined.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think so too.
I agree.
So the environmental action plan that Mark was talking about is number 9. Does that need to connect back to the supports sustainable initiatives or just leave them the way they are? I mean,
There's yeah, part of the sustainable initiatives are embodied in the action plan,
right.
but I'm not.
So it's whether it's called an area of primary focus, it's certainly sustainable initiatives are primary foci, but this is also an ongoing initiative. So maybe it makes sense to just leave it the way it is.
Right. Okay.
I think we've had that discussion every year.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well, look, we've talked about the action plan a number of times, and I know that and Mark and I have even had these conversations one-on-one about the need to gather information for greenhouse gas inventory, which is kind of your baseline starting point, and that process now is finally underway. It's still going to be a probably a year plus initiative, but we have that multi-municipality grant that was obtained, and so that's a good project. It's just gotten off to a very slow start. The grant, I would have expected something happening in April, but with everything going on in the world, it didn't. So they're just now starting to set up kind of regular virtual meetings on a monthly basis. So they've had to pivot their entire process for dealing with that grant. But we're ready to take part along with the other 9 or 10 communities.
Okay.
Anything else here, or?
Well, that was basically it for me.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing, and by the way, it's not the last bite at the apple here. So if you look it over and you see there's something missing, let me know. I would put it. Not that we necessarily have formally adopted them in the past, but I think we can put them on the agenda next meeting and just do an adoption of them, and we'll issue them.
Okay.
Well, with whatever changes you may have.
All right, good.
I actually thought this was a great first pass, Larry. So thanks very much for putting this together, and thanks to the board members for their comments as well. So,
Brian, I think it was one of the first years that you and I were on the board that we started doing this. I think it's a good process myself.
yeah, and I think this year the way we kind of I think the way we've kind of evolved this from, I think the first year it was just literally like 10 goals or whatever,
Yeah,
5 goals, whatever it was. The way we've kind of broken it down to areas of primary focus, ongoing. I think what happens is like the ongoing guide our overall, agendas and things. Then the long-term stuff obviously is in the background, but I think that this process has evolved as well. But I think it's become, kind of very actionable now at the primary focus items, as well as kind of a guiding principle as well. So I think it's been a good process that's evolved as well. So thank you everyone for your participation, and we continue to work on it. But capital budget, Larry?
Yeah, it's time for that.
Share it?
Yes, I will. Just double check here. Okay. All right. So I think you've all seen this schedule before. By the way, I just got a text that the water is being turned on now. So Larry can go confirm that for us.
Larry can go do laundry during.
No, I didn't say it's on yet. It's being turned on, so it'll be a slow process.
I have to excuse myself to do some laundry.
Yeah. There you go.
Isn't it gurgle kind of brown and goopy when it starts up? You know.
No, they turn it on slowly to try not to stir things up, but that doesn't mean that it won't be a little bit cloudy. So
So wait on your laundry, Larry.
yeah, you might want to wait on that. Okay, so this schedule here, I know you've seen before. It is broken down. It's our debt service on an annual basis, broken down into existing debt that is currently on the books and what I call tentative projects or projects that you're going to be looking at now. So it's a little disturbing to look at, but let me explain a little bit about this. So when debt is issued, municipalities have the option to issue what they call level debt service or declining debt service. Traditionally, we've been issuing declining debt service, which means you make equal principal payments every year, and then the interest declines. So you have a lower payment every year, starting with year one and headed down to the end. We were advised and ultimately agreed that the marketplace is trained to bid on level debt, and so what that means is just like your mortgage, it's a flat payment with higher amounts of interest, higher amounts being allocated to interest in the beginning and less to principal, and then of course that switches by the end. But you make level payments over the term. So what I have not exactly reflected here is right now you can see I don't know if you can see the hand or the mouse here, but the existing debt service is fairly flat. There's some decline to it from some of our older debt, but the new debt that we just issued last year, the new bonds that we issued in 2019 are level, which results in a much flatter payment schedule. What needs to be adjusted in our debt service analysis, our capital budget analysis, is these payments need to be adjusted on a level basis, which I will do, and it'll be done in time. Just the programming involved with it, I needed more time for it. So, but this will be done by the time you consider this at the hopefully at the August regular meeting, August 17th. So it's not as scary as it looks, but there are reasons why the numbers look like they're so high. So we'll dig into the plan on an annual basis, but I just wanted to cover that this, I would expect these numbers to be much flatter. The curve on this would be much flatter than what you're seeing here.
I have to read the years. The years are so small. I'm trying to read the years at the bottom. Like this really tall, oh, that's better. 2026.
Yeah, these, I didn't even have labels here. I'm sorry, but it probably goes out to about 20.
No, that's the
48
down here, 2020. Oh, down there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of years missing here on the chart, but it goes out to about 2048. They're years that none of us have to worry about right now. Anyway, there's another schedule here, which is the water fund debt service. Again, this one's going to look a lot flatter than it looks, but we do have to break out for statutory reasons. We have to break out our debt service associated with the water fund versus debt service for the rest of the village. Okay. So moving on to the actual budget itself. So what you're looking at here and what we're discussing primarily tonight is the capital budget for the current fiscal year, 2020-21. That's the only set of projects that you're committing to, so to speak. We only borrow for projects like this, essentially once a year, and you can change your mind if there's projects on here in the future that change either in numbers or your focus changes or anything happens. But so the only thing you're really locking in when you approve this capital budget is the 2020-21 year. But like anything, this is a multi-year plan, and we really need to understand the projects that are in front of us right now, but also the projects that are, potentially down the road, and the magnitude of those projects. So getting back to, let me just check here. So getting back to, that debt service graph that you saw before, there were some pretty large spikes there, not immediately in the first year, but a few years down the road. And you'll see as we go through this, and I'll flip forward on that I do have some very large projects in here. I'd like to call them just placeholders, but they're probably more than just placeholders. They're important projects that we know need to be done. We know that our firehouse needs to be addressed. We know that the comprehensive plan told us that we need to address the public works property as well. So those are very large projects, and we have those in here so that when we're thinking about projects today, we also have those in mind for the future. So it's not we try not to lose sight of all that. So in the meantime, there are the projects that we have in front of us here. I'm not going to go through every single one. I'll highlight some of the more significant ones, and certainly if you have any questions about any of them. The 86 Main Street acquisition, that's the largest one on this page. And the column you should be worried about is the bonded column. And that property was acquired, as you know, and that's part of a discussion that the board will have. We probably would have started a discussion about that in the spring, but the timing was just not quite right to have a conversation about, the need to spend, several $1 million on a firehouse or other plans. But those conversations will start, soon enough, probably within the next 6 to 9 months, I would say. But that property was purchased already. The bonds need to be taken out. That's kind of not, that ship sailed already, so to speak.
So on the different cars and vehicles, I have in the back of my head that we had moved them into operating budget on occasion. Am I imagining that, or no?
Only, the main one that's in an operating budget is the police. So the police purchase a vehicle every single year, and some years they purchase 2. So the one is in the operating budget, but the other vehicles, we've not introduced those on a regular basis into the operating budget. Some years there's small pickup trucks like you see on here, and other years there's $300,000 dump trucks or garbage trucks. So those are not in the operating budget.
Because they're not on the regular basis that the police cars are.
Yeah, it's not. There's no regular pattern to it, and plus it takes work for you to move things from the capital budget to the operating budget. I think you saw that firsthand this year. We planned. You can see here this line item paving. We planned on having this only be. Actually, we planned on having it 0, to be perfectly honest with you, and have it all 120,000 in the operating budget. But when the pandemic hit and the budget issues you had, you made the decision to pull that back out. Still do the paving, but just to finance it at obviously very low interest rates. So I think that was a wise move. But the point is it's not always so easy to just shift from one to the other. In a perfect world, sure. If you average our vehicle purchases across all departments on an annual basis, there's probably easily $75,000 to $100,000 of vehicle purchases every year. Sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's lower. And would I like to see that in the operating budget? Sure, but that's going to be work that you have to do during the operating budget season.
No, I'm not objecting to it. I was just trying to remember what we had done, and now you reminded me, so that's fine.
Yeah, no, understood.
Since we're beating up on pickup trucks, I just want to make the observation that we're buying a lot of pickup trucks on this plan over the next 4 years. It's something like 7 or 8 pickup trucks. I don't know if that includes the satellite trucks from the DPW or not, but we really got to get some experience with the battery EV ones at this point, because that's a whole lot of stuff to be buying and putting off a decision about what's reasonable in the EV market. So I would say, although you probably don't have anything to do 2021, by 21-22, we should have a EV alternative to a lot of these heavy duty pickup trucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, first of all, the 2 units that are here are both age 2003, so they're ready. But first of all, there isn't a commercially available pickup truck on the market right now, not a before market. I know that there's some in the works between, there's a whole bunch that are in the works, and I'm not talking about a Tesla. That doesn't look like it's going to do the job for us. But there was just a company announced today that's going to be restarting a General Motors factory in Ohio or Michigan or somewhere in the Midwest, and but that's only part of the equation. The other part of the equation, as you know, from the policy that we had adopted recently, is that it needs to be fit for the type of duty that it's going to be performing. And there are applications where it could work, and there are applications where it probably wouldn't work. Plowing's an example of where it wouldn't work, simply because when you run out of battery, you can't plow anymore. So, but there are other applications where not every vehicle plows. So we would certainly look at it for sure. And that's, we've said it all along. It's always on our mind. We just need to make sure that there's a vehicle out there that is made for it, that's not aftermarket, that can be repaired easily. There's a whole list of criteria that we put together, that the fuel is easily available. Obviously electric is, but some of the other alternative fuels aren't. So
I guess should be market in the budget that we expect in the 2021 timeframe, 2022, to be able to have a selection of trucks available that could fit these profiles, because they do. One thing you're going to know is the price is going to be higher to have an EV.
Sure. So. Yeah. Well, that's a decision that you can make in the future for sure. And I mean, we're supportive of the idea of having electric vehicles. We've been purchasing now hybrids that are more just as appropriate for some of the uses. And the police department Interceptor's worked out nicely. The water superintendent has that vehicle, and we have one ready to go now to replace the massive Tahoe that we have for the building inspector. So that'll be an improvement in and of itself. And he's looking forward to it because he didn't want the massive Tahoe. So it's what was available at the time. All right. Anything else here? I should just mention that the money for, I know it's a small item, but just so you understand the thought process, we are looking to get some design work, some exploratory design work done on Harriman Road to try to start addressing the drainage along Harriman Road. A lot of the urgency has diminished. It's not gone away completely because we are able to control the level of the reservoir. So that's helped with some of the flooding issues down on Harriman Road and the side streets there. But we know from a long-term basis, from a long-term standpoint, there's a need to have a very large drainage project in that area. And we're starting that by, doing the surveying and the mapping and some of the calculations to get that started. So that's our recommendation here. And then we'll have future years to plan for the large construction project that it'll probably be.
Mm. So isn't the Hudson View Culvert finished?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is the definition of a cost overrun. And from some of the conversations we've had, we hit in a tremendous amount of rock.
Right.
We hit rock and we hit trenches that were not blasted, but that were chipped into the rock, and all the utilities were in one trench, and you can't do that anymore. So we had to make another trench. And so the chipping went on for a long time there, as you know, and if you live near there, you know it even more. So that's what the net result was. But the project's done, as you said. All right.
So the
Clock tower.
then is the supplemental.
Yeah, that's I'm sorry, I'll go back. Yeah, the total project, and that's the total gross expenditures is that includes just shy of $300,000 in a state grant that offset that. But the net cost was about $300,000 less than that total that you see there. So a big listen. It was not an easy project, as you know, and I never said it would be cheap.
Larry, I'm just curious how you put a life on that particular project.
It's statutory. There's a set in local finance law. There's a section that lists out the useful life of every type of improvement. That could very well be slightly different. I have to make sure these are accurate, but I believe that 10 is what we borrowed it over, but it comes right from a schedule that's in New York state law. So it's really not up to us. And we rely on our bond counsel to tell us what to do.
Yeah, I think it would last longer than 10 years.
Yeah, again, it's what they have. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I could show you the schedule someday. It'll bore you out of your mind. All right. Clock tower restoration. That number is going to probably get refined before August 17th. It might be higher than what you see there. We're trying to work on pulling together some numbers. Just in terms of the cost of scaffolding and what we think the final cost will be. But that's a ballpark right now. That's why this is.
Remember how long ago there was work done on it? Is that like?
It was done in about 2005.
Okay.
And maybe, yeah, it was around that time. And there were pieces that had failed since then. Some of the wood quality probably wasn't as good as it should have been. There are new pieces that failed. And obviously the paint, you can see the paint. So there's a fair amount of work that has to be done. But if it's not done, the theater's going to be not watertight. So
yeah, no, it's important.
Yeah.
Police car.
Yeah, you can see here that's a second car where the first one is in the operating budget.
Okay.
This is one of the years. Matheson Park, I think at least I know it was talked about in previous presentations, but the bathroom upgrade is something that we're tackling next. And so this money was not needed last year when we borrowed the larger amount because we're dealing with the outside work right now. But the bathroom upgrades need to go out and be done as well.
So in other words, the bathroom upgrades are not part of the current work they're doing down there right now.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Senior center, you can see here, we're not just putting in new air conditioning, so to speak. The senior center is in need of a real energy management system, building management system. We've consulted with a mechanical engineer, and we think that building will benefit in the long run. Will benefit from being professionally managed with a professional system to do that job. It's a bit of a piecemeal. The way the building came together, as you probably remember, it was an original building and then it was added onto. So the system is kind of cobbled together at this point. All right.
Yep.
So the theater, there's some fairly extensive projects here. They have recommended and what you see here. They've accelerated their work. You know, some of these would have been laid out over the course of, you know, individual summers. But since they're dark right now and won't be back in business at least until January 1st, they're trying to accelerate some of the work that they need to do. So, I mean, I can get you details on any of these, of course, but they're trying to be opportunistic as much as they can, take advantage of the shutdown. Okay, and so water department, one project, and we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this, you know, in the future with some more details. But we have the project I'm talking about is the sawmill pump station decommissioning. So adjacent to the Sawmill Parkway, there's a pump station located in between the Parkway and the South County Trailway. And that pump station existed to pump from the new Croton Aqueduct when it was in operation up to our water tanks at the top of Mountain Road. That property, that pump station had been there for decades, going back to, I think I saw the plans going back to the 30s. And it's on New York City land. The New York City DEP owns that land. So we've not used the pump station for many years since we've been getting our water from the Greenberg Rumbrook pump station. So New York City came to us and said, we were on that property by a lease agreement with the city. We don't pay any money for it. It's a $1 a year or whatever, but they don't like having the abandoned pump station on their property. So they've approached us and requested that it be decommissioned, made secure, and it won't look exactly the way it looked before, but it'll go back to a more natural state. I have pictures I can share with you at some point if we get into this a little bit as I get some more details on it. But that's a project that just appeared on its own in the middle of this past year. Beginning of 2020 or so. Mm-hmm. There's a transformer on the property that is the property of Con Edison. So they are responsible for, taking any oil out of it, anything that's PCB laden, and we're going to test the soil. It's a bit of a project, but Con Edison is involved as well. That's their transformer. They're going to be removing it. But once that's gone, the actual shaft will be secured, and the rest of the equipment that's there will be taken out. I can give you a tour someday, except you might need to check up on your life insurance policy to get there. It's not easy. You need to pull off the side of the Sawmill Parkway into the practically into the guardrail and then back down a hill. It's you want a police escort when you do it. Let's put it that way. So that's basically it. Mountain Road. There's a water line we've had a number of breaks on over the years. There's a tremendous amount of rock on Mountain Road, as you probably know. It was a much larger project. We've scaled it back to only be from roughly Hermit's Road down to the Sawmill Parkway. So if you're familiar with that stretch, it's not an easy project, but we've scaled it back. It was originally the full stretch of Mountain Road, which is about a $1.8 million project. So we're gonna bite it off a little bit at a time here and do this one.
So there are a lot of breaks in that. I almost never go there. So
yeah,
a lot of
we've had our issues. Yeah, we've had our issues, and I think some of the construction of the water line up in this area needed to be done a little bit more delicately and with some measure of care. And I don't think it was quite done that way, maybe back in the 60s or 50s in some of these areas. So there's a lot of rock that shifts and impacts these lines. So That's where the problems come from. All right. So that's it. I'm not saying that's it. That's a big number, of course, but I can move on to the other years, and I'll just show you some of the placeholders that I referred to before, unless you have any other questions here. Anything? Okay. All right. Let's see here. So 2021-22. I don't think that's one of the years where we're looking at. Yeah, that's a pretty routine year. But here's, for example, 22-23. So when you see some of those spikes in debt service, you have, a firehouse replacement, for example. And again, that's a placeholder. We haven't designed anything yet. The only thing you did was acquire property that we've publicly said will be used for the firehouse, unless someone changes their mind. I have a placeholder on here for theater entrance and air conditioning for the theater. As you can see, I have only 500,000 coming from the taxpayers. I have, an assumed amount that would need to be raised elsewhere, or grants, or some other way of building it. That's a complete placeholder and a complete guess at this point. To be perfectly honest with you, that fundraising effort is on hold, as you'd imagine. And we, they haven't gotten far enough along to try to determine whether and how much money could be raised. As we learn more, these numbers will change, but this is a placeholder for now. And of course, timing could be adjusted as well, depending on how all that goes. Following year, you're probably going to start seeing, larger projects like the Harriman Road drainage that we're looking to get some design money for now. I think even further down the road, you'll probably see, public works garage, although, yeah, there you go, DPW facility. Again, it's a placeholder. 4 years from now.
Where's DPW? Oh, 24, okay.
Yeah. But again, we know things are out there. We know ladders need to get replaced. We know a lot about a lot of things, but we just have to keep sight of it. That's all. Try to figure out how we can afford it.
So DPW facility replacement, of course, we're talking about the whole conglomerate of buildings on the little Astor Street and Buckout Street. That's what we've talked about for years and years.
I don't even know what replacement means. I don't know if it means in place, at another place.
Right.
I don't know what it means. That's how, we have not done any sort of planning because we don't have a location to even consider at this point.
Right.
Doesn't mean we're not actively working on it. I think you know that.
Trying. Oh my God.
Right.
So, if something develops, that's sooner. If nothing develops, it's later. But I can see why you have to pick some year and put it there. So,
yeah,
2024.
But again, you're not, as I said in the beginning, you're not committing, beyond the first year of this budget. It's not like you're committing to, we have to borrow in 2024 for the DPW facility. If we're not ready for it, or if it comes sooner, or if it happens later, that, we make adjustments. But there's got to be some place to start.
So the thing I was going to say is, in reference to the fire department, we ought to be sure that we don't have to end up ordering a replacement fire truck a year before the new department is ready. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be ordering to different specs at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the potentially the openings in the firehouse are only going to be bigger than what they are now. So if you're worried that we're going to order a truck that won't fit in the current firehouse, I don't think we have to worry about that. Is that what you mean?
I was thinking about having to buy an expensive alternative spec for a smaller truck when, conceivably, when the fire department is actually rebuilt, they'll end up with being able to handle larger equipment.
Right, right. Yeah. The size of the firehouse isn't really the controlling factor. What controls it is the terrain that they have to cover. So they do very detailed measurements to make sure that, any truck they get can make it up Strawberry Lane, for example, just to pick on that. But, that's a tough incline. But there's any number of other roads that you can test it on. So I think the controlling factor is really the terrain, and as opposed to, it's not like we order a miniature truck because it has to fit in the firehouse. The firehouse is, the width of the openings is adequate. It's not comfortable, but it's adequate for the obviously for the equipment we have. But we're not building it.
It's more the space behind it and things that aren't adequate.
Exactly. Yeah, we have stuff.
To change behind. You're not supposed to have gear behind trucks because people get backed over and stuff like that. We've been lucky enough that we've been able to fit the modern trucks in, but
yeah,
it's an interesting question, and hopefully it'll all be holistically looked at anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there'll be plenty of discussions about this going forward. We need to get those started, and I mean, we purchased a piece of property, but it wasn't our intention to just be landlords forever. So that's it. All right. If you have any other questions tonight, happy to answer them. If you have any questions after tonight, let me know. Otherwise, I'll try to fix up a few of these calculations, like I said, on the debt service to give you a little clearer picture of what the debt looks like, and or what the future debt would be, and bring that back on August 17th.
Yeah, so it'd be good to get some of those projects started as well. So
yeah,
especially the theater projects. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Larry and Brenda.
Yeah.
Brenda didn't make it on tonight, but
Here.
she was.
I
I'm
see
here,
her.
Larry.
There
Oh, you are. I'm sorry. Oh, there you are. Okay,
I
sorry.
got in just in time.
Apologize. I didn't pop up the way I have my windows
Yeah,
here.
that's okay.
She was exhausted from putting this together, but she's here now.
My grandchildren's birthday was tonight. The twins turned 1.
Oh, they are darling. Oh my gosh.
I made it in time. My only question was then, with the timing, if we adopted in the August meeting, would we then go for the resolutions in September? Or would you want to accelerate it and try to do everything in August?
I mean, I think
Resolutions are what? What do you mean by the resolutions?
It would be the next step after you would normally, you would adopt it first, then I'd come back the following month with the bonding resolutions
Oh,
that
the bonding.
bonding attorney prepares. And then from there, we have advertising, the permissive referendums, that would be enough lead time for borrowing. Is there any reason we would want to accelerate that and do everything in August, or we would just say, wait till September for the bonding resolutions?
Well, are you worried about interest rates or something?
So I guess that would push us out, Larry.
Not particularly. No, I don't think interest rates are a concern. We honestly, we rarely try to, play the market, so to speak, of that. But no, it's just from a timing standpoint, a cash flow standpoint. So we would typically issue our debt in November. That's a typical time we would do it. And if we go to the September 16th meeting, let's say, even though it's a work session, we could do some resolutions there, and that gives you 2 months to get out to market, right? Is that adequate, or?
I have the 2 waiting periods, was like 20 days, 30 days, and 20 days, something like that. So It's almost a 2-month waiting
should be
period
fine
for the permissive referendum, for the second notice. So I guess it would be pushing us into more December.
I mean, I
have the cash flow, but you just can't be spending the major,
I mean, I almost feel that the most of the projects for next, for the current bonding, maybe we could be in a position to be ready in August. If you think you could be ready, Brenda, if we want to.
Then I will be going with the current list, and I'll be giving this to the bonding attorney.
Yeah. And if we have to adjust a few numbers, that's fine. In other words, there may be some. I don't know if you were on at the time when I first started this, but
in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So yeah, there may be a few numbers that have to get adjusted. Not a big deal either way. But we can adjust the numbers in the resolutions fairly easily. So that's fine. We'll get them started, and if they can do it by August 17th, that's great.
So in other words, as we look at this now, if we, if we don't speak up and somebody says, wow, we shouldn't do that, we're pretty much assume that these are the things that everybody agrees to that we're doing now.
Yeah, we would come, right, we would come to the August 17th meeting with the resolutions drafted.
Okay.
But
yeah.
but again, none of this means that you're locked into doing anything. If you wake up one day on August 16th and decide that you're not in favor of this, or the board ends up not approving the capital budget, then the resolutions get put on the shelf for a little bit. That's all. I mean, or if there's a project, we pull it out. You know, if there's a project you decide is not worthy, we pull it out. So, but we'll go with the percentages that if, unless there's anything major that you think of in, now or the next few days, we'll come with the right resolutions. That works.
Agreed.
Fine.
Good. Okay. All right. So that is it. And you have another link, right, for
Yep.
the session with council, but that's it for the public meeting.
I will make a motion to adjourn if I can have a second.
Okay.
Second.
We got a second from Larry Lonke or Peace. I'm not sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Perfect. Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.